everyone. Welcome back to another story time. I bet we've got a great book in here. Are you ready to find out? Let's go. Help me open up the library bag. Our library bag has a big surprise. Now's the time to use our eyes. Untie, unwind, open wide. Show us what's inside. Ready, set, go. 1, 2, 3. Open now and let us see. Oh, our favorite friend is in here. Ooh, good day, Mr. Fred. How are you? Boys and girls, can you say hi to Mr. Fred? What? Oh, yes, it is baseball season. Are any of you playing t-ball or baseball? Raise your hands. Wow, look at that, Fred. I bet they will like this book. All right, let's find out what it is. Can you tell Fred, see you later, alligator? Fred goes in, and our book comes out. It's called Roasted Peanuts by Tim Egan. He wrote the words and drew the pictures, so that makes him the author and the illustrator. It was published by Houghton Mifflin Company. Roasted Peanuts. Of all the things that Sam and Jackson loved, nothing beat baseball. Nothing was better than a warm afternoon at Grant's Field with the sun shining on the bright green grass, the cheers of the crowd, and a bag of roasted peanuts. Nothing. As far back as they could remember, the two of them had always played ball together. Sam was an amazing athlete. He was very strong and fast, and most folks assumed that one day he'd play for the big leagues. Jackson was another story. One might expect him to be quick and agile, but that wasn't the case. He was the slowest cat anyone had ever seen. He couldn't hit the ball if he tried, and he rarely caught it, even when it was thrown right to him. He did, however, have a terrific arm. He could throw really far and with great accuracy, and Sam, being a good friend, always encouraged him. "Another great throw," he'd say. "You're a natural, Jackson." Jackson would smile and say, "Yeah, you and me, Sammy, we're gonna be legends." Now the day came when Sam and Jackson were finally old enough to try out for the local team, the Grazers. All through the tryouts, Sam was incredible. He hit almost every pitch out of the park and caught every ball that came near him. It was obvious who the best player on the field was. It was also pretty obvious who the worst was. Although he threw the ball well, Jackson didn't throw fast enough to be a pitcher. He never even came close to hitting a ball, let alone catching one, and he ran so slowly that some folks actually started laughing. It was a tough day for Jackson, and he went home feeling very defeated. When the team was announced the following week, it came as no surprise that Sam was chosen and Jackson wasn't. As they read the names, Jackson said quietly, "Well, at least one of us will be a legend." It kind of took all the joy out of the whole thing for Sam. Practices started soon after that, and while Sam was gone every day, Jackson spent much of his time sitting on the steps of his apartment, feeling sorry for himself. Sam practiced hard with the team, but without Jackson around, it just wasn't as fun. One afternoon after practice, Sam noticed a poster on the wall of the ballpark. He tore the poster down and ran over to Jackson's apartment. "Check this out," he shouted as he held up the poster. It read, "Wanted, peanut vendor, must throw well, free admission to every Grazer game." "It's a sign," shouted Sam. "I can see that," said Jackson. "No," said Sam, "it's a sign for you. You throw great. You could come to every game." Jackson looked at the poster. "Thanks, Sammy, but no thanks," he said. The Grazers had their first game the following Saturday, and to everyone's surprise, Sam played terribly. He struck out every time and dropped 3 fly balls. The Grazers lost 17-3. Many in the crowd blamed Sam. The next games weren't much better. Sam just wasn't playing well at all, and folks were starting to talk. "That horse is a disgrace," said one fellow after a game. "Whatever he had before, he sure doesn't have it anymore." Jackson couldn't help but overhear some of these comments. During the next game, Sam walked up to the plate. He'd already struck out twice, and for the first time in his life, he actually heard a few boos from the stands. The pitcher threw the first ball. "Strike one," yelled the umpire. More folks started booing. Then came the second pitch. "Strike two," shouted the ump. "Throw the horse out," shouted someone. "Yeah," shouted another. "Go back to the farm." But over the boos, Sam suddenly heard a familiar voice. "Peanuts, peanuts, get your peanuts before the horse strikes out again." It was Jackson. He was holding a box of peanuts. He looked down at Sam and yelled, "You see that stick you're holding? That's called a bat. You want to use that to hit the little ball they throw at you." Sam smiled, turned toward the pitcher, and dug in his shoes. The pitcher threw the ball and Sam knocked it out of the park. The crowd went crazy. As Sam rounded the bases, a lady yelled, "Hey, peanut guy, over here." The lady was just a few sections away, and Jackson didn't feel like walking that far, so he just threw the bag of peanuts. It landed perfectly on her lap. "Wow," said a fellow, "did you see that throw? Hey, how about a bag up here?" This guy was at the top of the bleachers. Jackson pulled back and threw another bag, and again it landed right on the guy. "Amazing," shouted someone else. Jackson kept throwing the peanuts so perfectly that by the 5th inning, the crowd was watching him as much as the game. As the season continued, Sam played brilliantly, and the Grazers started winning every game. And with each game, Jackson became more well-known himself. It became a tradition to let him get really far away before yelling, "Hey, Jackson, over here!" His record was an unbelievable 63 rows away. Sometimes after the game, Sam and Jackson would stand together outside the park and sign autographs. The season came down to the final game on October 26th. The Grazers were in top form, but the other team, the Barkers, were also very good. In the bottom of the 9th inning, the score was tied, 7-7. There were 2 outs with a cow on third, and Sam was at bat. He swung the first pitch and missed. As the crowd moaned, a lady yelled, "Hey, Jackson, over here!" Jackson turned and looked. She was at least 100 rows away, and he didn't think he could make a throw that far. The pitcher threw the second pitch. Strike 2. The crowd started grumbling as the lady shouted again, "Jackson, come on, over here!" "Nobody could make a throw that far," yelled someone, "not even Jackson." Jackson looked down at Sam. Sam looked up at Jackson. By now, some of the players on the field were starting to look up into the stands. The pitcher threw the third pitch just as Jackson threw his bag of peanuts. Sam swung at the ball and hit it perfectly. As the ball sailed over the field, the peanuts sailed over the crowd. Some folks weren't sure which one to watch. The peanuts landed perfectly on the lady's lap and the crowd went crazy. Unfortunately, Sam's hit was dropping into center field. It would be an easy out. But the guy playing center field had been so busy watching Jackson's throw that the ball hit him on the head, and the cow on third base ran home and scored the winning run. Rarely in the history of baseball has a crowd gone so wild. Sam became a champion and played for 7 great seasons. He still goes to the games every Saturday, where he watches his best friend break his peanut throwing record every year. And everyone agrees that, while many legends have come and gone at Grants Field, only one is still part of the game. The end. And that's the story of roasted peanuts. Wasn't that so much fun? You might think of that next time you go to a baseball game, whether you're playing on the field or watching off the field. I'll see you next time.